All right, Steve Says Boom fans, what's the subject for today? Something interesting today, something I haven't done yet. I've had people texting me, DMing me, asking me to talk about some more contemporary subjects, including what I think about the current variant powerhouse in the industry, how people are with it, speculation and stuff like that. I think it's a fascinating subject, especially when you give it some context. And what am I talking about when I say give it some context? I want to do a comparison with today's market with what happened during the original speculator boom of the early 1990s. Now, there's a possibility that some of you who are watching this were not there during those incredible years. Years of utter and total madness. Definite highs, the highest highs, and then also the lowest lows. So I want to do a little comparison here. I think it's a nice subject to get my teeth into. So without further ado, let's get into the meat and bones. Let's go all the way back to 1990. In 1990, Marvel released Spider-Man #1 by Todd McFarlane. And I had a print run of approximately 1 million copies. 1 million. It was an amazing success. Todd McFarlane, of course, had been doing Amazing Spider-Man for a while, and previous to that, he had done The Incredible Hulk. And previous to that, he'd done a couple of small little projects. But now he was an industry superstar, and his name and the character Spidey had allowed Marvel to produce a book that was able to sell 1 million copies. It's truly astounding. And I remember as if it was yesterday, because I was over in England at the time, and it was actually in a national newspaper in their entertainment. It wasn't even their entertainment section. It was just a little picture, and I saw a cover of the Spider-Man #1. And it said, in the headline, American comic book sells 1 million copies. But we hadn't seen numbers like that since the 1940s. It was incredible. So, if you want to say that that's the spark, could be. Shortly after that, of course, I think a year later, we had X-Force #1, which came out, which had the different variants, polybag with different cards, and everyone was going after the little cable card. And I think it was 2.7 million copies, I think. It was incredible. Something had changed in the industry right now. The industry was breaking new grounds in regards to the sheer amount of sales. It was like a perfect storm. Back in the 70s, there wasn't really that many comic shops. It was a quiet little medium. It was just ticking along. And here we are in the glorious, brand new, shiny 1990s. And there was no limits. Now, of course, you can't say that to a publisher. A publisher will always try to find those limits. And so, shortly after X-Force #1, they released Jim Lee's X-Men #1, A, B, C, D, and E. 8 million books. According to legend, 8 million books. Think about that for a second. In 1990, everyone was going, "Oh, 1 million." Chump change compared to 8 million of these X-Men's. And I remember at the time I wasn't a retailer. I was just strictly a fan. I didn't know about those numbers. It wasn't until a couple of years later, when I was actually working in the industry, I got to work in my first comic shop, and I went into the back storeroom, the stock room, and I saw these boxes, and I was like, "Ooh, what are those boxes?" It's like 20 boxes, huge big diamond boxes, all stacked up, 300 counts. And I asked the owner, "Oh, what's in there? Should we move that out?" He goes, "Oh, they're X-Men ones." So, 8 million copies had been printed, but 8 million copies hadn't been sold to individual people. Far from it. Imagine all the stores that had their own back rooms with those boxes, throwing stuff into storage locations, full of that stuff. And quite quickly, the steamroller began. The big kahuna was coming down the pipeline. Superman 75, the death of Superman, industry highlight, news, media. It was chaos. Chaos. The day that book came out, there were lines around the block for comic shops of all these fresh people that had never been in a comic shop or had been in a comic shop for 10, 15 years. But suddenly they were back. But why were they back? Were they curious about how Superman dies? Or were they just interested in trying to, flip the book, know it was going to be worth money at some point, and get completely insane? And believe you me, it's the latter. I saw people buying 300 copies. And I remember even then I just felt sorry for them because they were just uneducated. This was a manufactured collectible. No matter how many copies they bought, it wasn't going to be worth that much in the future. It just wasn't going to be worth that much. Too many copies out there. Too many people looking after them, putting them in bags and boards, making sure that they were mint. No, they kept buying and buying and buying. This is where our little industry had a chance to stand up and do the right thing. People who were working in the comic shops at the time, owners, they made a decision. Go for the money or be truthful. So when someone came up and said, hey, put me down on the subscription list, what's hot? What else is coming down? Did the dealer say this? Oh, hey, I just want to let you know, there's probably not much of a chance that this book is going to be worth money, and you're not going to be able to put your kids through college. But this is a good book to read. This is a good book there. Did that happen? No, it didn't. Did not happen. And the funny thing is that about 3 or 4 years ago, I went up to some dealers who were around at the time, and I told them to their faces. I was like, you guys didn't do anything, and you guys are responsible for the crash which came. And they all said, oh, no, not me. I wasn't there. I didn't say anything. They were there. Anyway, back to Superman 75. In retrospect, the industry began a countdown with the release of Superman 75. So many publishers realized that there was money. People came in, new publishers popped up overnight. One of the publishers that had been around a little bit, but had just been ticking, was Valiant, Jim Shooter's company, with Harbinger and, Magnus Robot Fighter. And then Turok. Can any of you remember the Turok book that came out with a little hologram card on the cover, whatever it was? Oh, no. It seemed like there was billions of those books out there. And that was the first book that I knew that really clogged up the back room. Just clogged it up. But still, the industry forged on. 1993 was the biggest year in comic sales ever. There was all sorts of issues. There was hologram issues with holes in it, from gunshots, acetate covers, you name it. The publishers were doing everything they could. Boom, flood everything. There's so much money. I think we had superstars suddenly in our business. Rob Liefeld was a superstar. Turned up at San Diego with an entourage. Unheard of. Ridiculous when we think about it now. But what was happening was that people were buying issues, these hologram issues. I mean, issues like Guardians of the Galaxy, number 25. It's a nice, flashy cover with Galactus on it. And they were buying 10 or 15 copies of this. One for themselves and then 14 to sell later for lots of money. Now, you add that to all the product that was printed by that new company that came along when all the Marvel artists, the big ones, decided to leave Marvel and go to Malibu Comics and have more control over their characters. The Image crew, with Youngblood, Savage Dragon, and Spawn, and Wildcats, and Stormwatch. And here is a perfect example. Does any of you guys remember Tribe? Larry Stroman's Tribe. He did one book. I think he made $1 million. And then he went off into the sunset and didn't do anything ever again. There was so much money being made by so many people. Now, of course, that gravy train can't go on for too long. Because there was other things, there was other market conditions which were coming in, sucking in more money. There was the trading cards. Companies were releasing their Marvel had all those little trading cards, the Marvel Universe cards. And that attracted younger kids, younger ones. And then, of course, we had Pokemon cards. People coming in for their Charizard holograms and chase cards. Parents would come in and the poor little kid would be like, I want the card, I want that. Okay, $50 for that card. So they could, complete that collection, put it in their folder. And so here's all the regular ones and then all the, the holograms. What was the problem? Can any of you guys guess what was wrong? At some point, someone was going to walk back into the comic store and try and sell some of this stuff. They had a nice, beautiful, rolled up Wizard magazine under their arm, a couple of boxes. They would come in and plonk it down, say, hey, look, here's my Superman 75s. I've got a long box of them, 300 copies. Wizard says they're $25 a piece right now. I'll take 20 a piece. Big smile on their face. 20, let's look at make some money. None of those books were purchased. Definitely not by my comic shop. The owner came out and he would look at these collections coming in and go, it's okay, I've already got enough stock. I don't need to buy yours. So this was happening again and again. All over the country, people were coming in and trying to sell their product back. And there was no response. And then there was like an inkling, like a little coin dropped in their minds. Wait a minute. Have I been duped? Have I been caught up in some sort of hysteria? Are my books not worth anything? And you could not sell us 50 copies of Youngblood 1, 50 copies of Wildcats 1. Don't even think about Stormwatch. Okay? And I would throw Tribe out the window. Valiant had gone to hell, of course. About the initial pre-Unity Valiants were very good. And then all of a sudden, after a certain number, it just went crazy. There's 5 million copies. I can't tell you how many Valiant copies and stuff that I've sold out bulk for 5 cents a piece. What was even worse, and I witnessed it firsthand, was parents coming in with their kids' folders. The kids had grown out of the Pokemon cards. And the parents would come in and say, hey, this belonged to my children. And it's a full set. They would open up. They'd be quite proud. Yes, you can remember me. Yeah, we come in, we bought the cards. They've grown up now. They've grown out of it. And I want to sell my folder of cards. We didn't purchase a single folder of these cards. The owner came out and was like, I don't need them. Oh my word, I saw parents lose their minds. Now at that time, lucky enough, I was just a minion. I could just sort of pull away, walk away from the front desk and hide in the back room, and I would be listening they'd be like, hey, you mean to tell me I wasted my money? You're not even going to give me an offer. People would bring in their sets of Marvel Universe cards. We didn't want them. They had no other avenues to sell their product. They had been going off information from the Wizard and thinking about all this value. The Wizard was a fantastic magazine for creating this false narrative about value. I love Wizard. However, the price guide was crazy. You'd go into the back, and any of you who were there would remember those big swashes of yellow, which showed that something was hot and going up in value, going up in price, going up in value. Like, hey, look at my books, they're going up, they're going up. Oh, my book, it's $12 each now, $12. Go into a store and try and get $12 for it. Again, this is the early 1990s. There was no eBay. There was no other outlet. Again, it was very sad because it all had to come to a head. And it did. In early 1994, the first rumblings began. And sales began to drop a little bit. The people who had come in and who were just buying and speculating to try and flip had tried to turn their product within the 2-year window, whatever it was that they thought they were going to get success, didn't have any success, and just said, take me off your subscription list. I'm done, I'm out. So all those inflated industry numbers that we had, oh, look at all these brand new readers coming into the industry. They weren't readers. Those numbers were not correct. There was a lot of people who weren't even reading. It was like they were collecting stamps. They were looking at the cover and go, oh, that's very nice. But boom, I think I can sell this. In October 1994, the owner of my comic shop came up to me and he said, Steve, last month we had a 30% drop in sales. We can't keep surviving that. But it carried on. It carried on, and early 1995, store had to close. And we were not alone. There was thousands of stores all closing. The industry was crashing. Lucky enough, I was able to find work elsewhere. I had a good reputation. I was, pretty hardcore even then. I got another job at a comic store, and I was able to watch the decline. People coming in, sales going down and down and down and down. More and more stores going out of business. So, that being said, by 1995, it was over. In 1996, Marvel panicked and gave, some of their major characters over to, Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld for Heroes Reborn. What an utter disaster that was. Now, how about today? Today is completely different. Today, the publishers, they don't force you to buy a single issue. They don't go, oh, this issue is going to be a hologram issue, and then you're going to have to buy it. It's $9.99. They'll have a regular issue, and then they'll have variants. Now, for example, look at this little variant I picked up. I'm not a variant purchaser. I'm not. However, this caught my eye. This is basically a reproduction, a homage, basically, to Amazing Adventures 18. This is by Coffin Comics, of course, and that's Lady Death. I was like, I'm going to get it. It's fun. I'm not going to flip it. I'm not going to sell it. I like it. I purchased it. Even more crazy. Look at this. This is Immortal Hulk number 33. Look, I ended up getting all of these different variants of the same issue. That's the first time that I've ever done that. Purchased. But it has my favorite character, one of my favorite characters in there, Zenny the Titan, and I like the covers. I purchased it. I had a choice. I could have just bought one comic. There wasn't a gun to my head. Okay? So, first of all, the publishers have given the consumers a choice. They don't have to buy the variants. They can just buy their one issue and carry on reading. Secondly, and even more important, the market conditions are so much better now. 1, we have CGC. 2, we have eBay. 3, we have GPA. We can see how much books are worth. We can see how much they're selling for. There's some variant issues out there that, they're 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 1 in 500, 1 in 5,000. You kidding me? That's a real scarcity. And there's people out there that want it. The publishers basically are pushing out product and saying, we understand that you're collectors. They know that we're collectors, okay? And they're saying, you don't have to buy it all, but there's a J. Scott Campbell cover here. You might want to get it. People are like, I've got to get that cover. Also, anyone who's speculating right now and just buying and flipping, they're actually being sort of successful. Because they're not being told, they're not looking at a price guide and going, oh, this book is worth this much. I wonder. They can go on eBay. They can track sales and go, oh my word, that 1 in 500 book, that's a $300 book. Every time, it's $300. It's a track record. There's money. It's turning over. It's a completely different way right now. So, how do I feel about it? I'm not a speculator. I will never speculate. I have no interest in it. If someone else wants to go and speculate, all strength to them. If someone is a collector of all the variants, hey, you are a collector. You want it. You're doing your run of Amazing Spider-Man right now, the new run, and you want all the variants. So you want to go issue 1, variant A, B, C, D, E. Issue 2, variant A, B, C, D, E. Great. It appeals to our nature as collectors. You know, oh, and you can be very proud. And go, oh, look at this. You know, I managed to get this. This is the 1 in 1,000 copy. The industry is strong right now. It's vibrant. The artists that we have are just sensational. I mean, some of the stuff they're doing is incredible. Also, if you're not into your variants, you're not into flipping, you're not into speculating, there is an incredible amount of diverse product out there to read. Image Comics, the company that used to be awful, just awful in the early 1990s, it's one of the best companies going right now for creator-owned projects. Creators coming out and creating a book, their characters, just one book a month. It's not connected to anything else. There's no editors, there's no corporate structure saying, oh, you can't do this. Someone can come along and say, yeah, I just read this one book a month. You know, I just read The Walking Dead. I just read Monstrous. You know, it's a fantastic time to be in comics. It's diverse. You can make money if you want to. You can collect. You can enjoy all those variant covers. There is nothing. I can't see a downside. And I've had some people come up to me and say, oh, it's going to be going the same way. No, it's not going to be going the same way. It's not. Because the information is in our hands. Before we make a purchase, we can look up the track record. We don't have to go to the store owner and say, is this book going to be worth anything? And he pulls out a price guide and says, wow, yeah, it's this value. Those days are over. So anyway, I hope I managed to put some light on this subject. I know it's a little bit different than my usual subject, but it's a contemporary subject and a lot of people are very interested in it. And you know what? Have fun out there. Keep collecting. Boom!